All right, so the final board briefing of the 23-24 school year was yesterday, June 13th. All of the trustees were in attendance. It was the first meeting for trustees Curry and trustee Turner. And also we have a new board president, Joe Carrion is the new board president. Some of the topics discussed were constraint progress measure 2.2, which was related to staff satisfaction. Superintendent's report included the district improvement plan, the workforce development update, and then the student code of conduct. The second read was yesterday. So CPM 2.2 is related to staff satisfaction on the surveys that were administered in the spring. So there's no annual goal for this CPM, but by 2025, the district hope to have a percentage of positive responses of 73%. And they actually already met that this past spring. So the percentage of positive responses was 73.7%. So they said that they were on track with this goal. All of the statements that the teachers and staff respond to are listed here. And you can see for every one of them, there's an increase from last year. Some of the outputs, strategic adjustments they discussed were the reset center placements decreased by 31%. There are also several staff recognition programs. They also started the Stay campaign, which is where central staff contacts the top 14% of teachers. So they're all distinguished teachers. And then they also send training materials to principals and APs to have that same kind of outreach happen at the campus level. They have career conversations with staff to learn about professional goals and development plans, culture calendar, as well as regular focus groups to gather feedback on district-wide initiatives from teachers themselves. And so with higher staff satisfaction, hopefully we'll be able to retain more effective teachers for the district. Discussion, Trustee White wanted to know when the state campaign was started. So it was this past spring. Also wanted to know how new teachers are included in career conversations. So that was a pilot program. It started with a small group of executive directors and principals. They're going to scale it to more EDs, more principals, and then eventually assistant principals and teachers. And then want to know about the reset centers. So there are 52 functioning. They're all at the comprehensive middle and high schools, and it's been running for about 3 years now. Trustee Weinberg wanted to know about the culture calendar. So these are monthly principal meetings with central staff to provide opportunities to build culture. The idea is that they can then take back those activities to their own campuses. Trustee Turner asked about positive intervention referrals. So those are interventions used before reset referrals. There was a 7% increase from last year. We want to know if any schools use PBIS, positive behavioral interventions and supports. So some do, not all. Wanted to know the average time students spend in reset centers. Average time is 1 to 3 days, but for smaller interventions, it can be one class period. And then want to know if there's been an increase or decrease in DAP or referrals. So there are 142 total discretionary placements, which was an increase from the previous year. And then there are 320 total mandatory placements, which was about the same. And then is PBIS implemented at DAP? No, it's not. Trustee Johnson wanted to know more about PBIS. So some of the supports they mentioned as examples were just extra staffing for passing periods in like hot spots around the campus, agreements where students understand the building rules. Those are just some of the examples they shared. He also wanted to know what qualifies for discretionary placements to DAP. So they're level 1 or 2 offenses. Some of the examples they shared, they're not all level 1 or 2 offenses. They shared bullying, harassment, offensive language can result in discretionary DAP placement. They also shared that 6 level 1 referrals, or the smaller referrals, basically, if you have 6 of them in 45 days, that can also result in discretionary DAP placement. He wanted to know what's being done to address the behavior before DAP is introduced. So they said parent contact, progressive discipline measures, 360 suite lessons, which is like a computer program, journaling. Those are just some of the examples they shared. He did share that he doesn't see those interventions working based on his observations at campuses when he goes to visit. So they said that they are working with principals and teachers to identify solutions in which there are consequences for behaviors, but they're also creating a supportive environment where teachers can deliver instruction. They said a lot of this conversation probably needs to happen, offline and will be continued throughout the year. Trustee Curry Want to know if the decrease in reset center placements is due to a decrease in the number of level 1 or 2 offenses. So yes, it's not because they're using reset centers less frequently. It's because the number of offenses are actually reducing. Trustee Mackey wanted to know what's being done for high-performing new teachers. So they do have a teacher of promise recognition program that targets first-year and early career teachers. He wanted to know the retention rates for teachers in that program. And then how do principals utilize the survey data? So they collaborate with their executive directors to create action plans based off of the data that's specific to their campus. Then superintendent's report, the first thing they discussed was the district improvement plan. So this is a requirement from TEA for districts to create these plans. And then campuses also have to create campus improvement plans that are aligned with the district improvement plan. They said it's projected to be complete in August or September. They're still waiting on end of year data. So some of the strategic initiatives and strategies that they shared are there on the slide. It's pretty much the things that they talk about in all of the board briefings throughout the entire year. But this is just basically an opportunity to have a full explanation of the highest leverage strategies, how they're aligned to goals and constraints set by the board. So discussion, trustee Foreman, some of the supports were taken away from campuses due to budget constraints. Will those return for campuses who need them? So they talked about, repurposing central staff. So they're more student facing. That was like the adjustment they're making to deal with some of those budget limitations, introducing the demo teachers, early learning specialists who are campus-based staff. And they have identified campuses that need additional staff beyond what the formula kind of would dictate. And they're working with those campuses to make that happen. She wanted to know if P-TECH supports are intended to increase retention of P-TECH students. So yes, making sure students who join P-TECH stay in the program for the entire time. And then were summer hubs utilized this year? So yes, 2,000 students, they were utilized this past year, and then they expect 2,000 more students this summer. Trustee White wanted to know if students take summer school courses can take summer school courses to get ahead or retake classes. They can. It's only available for credit recovery, so it's not available for students who just want to get a better grade. And then do students have to be in P-TECH programs to take summer classes at Dallas College? No, it's open to all students, and it's at no cost to the student. Trustee Curry just wanted to know if the district improvement plan is a description of how district strategies align with board goals. So yes, there are also some other requirements from TEA that they have to include. Also wanted to know about tracking of students. So does the district have data on college completion rates? They do through National Clearinghouse, but don't actively track that. And then does the district have data on students who enter the workforce? So percentage of students who are employed, utilization of certificates, who is earning a living wage. So they built relationships with workforce partners so they can try to get data that way, but they don't have a formal system to track it. They are limited by budget resources, and they would like an investment from the state to support the efforts in tracking. Trustee Turner wanted to know how P-TECH's introduced to middle and elementary school students. So they have curriculum that counselors share with elementary school students to introduce those pathways. And then in middle school, there's actually a course called Path to College and Career that also expands on those opportunities and allows the 8th graders to be able to make that decision if they want to enter into one of those pathways. And one more information on summer hubs. So these are dual credit opportunities that allow high school students to either accelerate and get ahead or get caught up. And then are there opportunities for middle schoolers to engage in P-TECH opportunities during the summer? So yes, all the P-TECH programs have summer bridge programs for their rising 9th graders who are entering into the P-TECH programs. Trustee Johnson just wanted to know how the campus improvement plans guide the funding for the campus. So basically the strategies that are outlined in those campus improvement plans dictate how the campus is going to spend their funding. And as long as it aligns with the district improvement plan, they can spend their funding in those ways. And Trustee Mackey wanted to know about just return on investment on the strategies. So they're now tying data directly to those strategies and identifying how to measure the impact of those strategies so they can assess which ones do have the highest return on investment, sorry. And then workforce development update. So the strategy for DISD is, offering students skills, work-based learning opportunities to be able to partner with corporations and industries and offer students internships or employment, and also building an alumni network called Connect Alum that will hopefully spur even more opportunities available to students. So during summer of 2023, last summer, there's over $2 million earned by students through internships or employment. Since 2022, there have been almost 1,400 internships offered. And then this past year, they talked a lot about how DISD actually was able to offer internships internally to 100 students. They're all paid internships at 25 internal DISD departments. And then in 2023, there are 300, engaged industry partners. So this allows students to gain employment, allow them to earn post-secondary credentials, and enter the workforce with the skills that they need. Discussion, Trustee Weinberg just wanted to know the partner experiences. So they do survey both the partner and students, and a lot of the partnerships are multi-year, and that's just based off the positive experiences that partners have. They want to come back because they see it as a fulfilling experience for both them and the student. And then Trustee Turner wanted to know how the district can expand the internship opportunities available in the district itself to include even more than 100 students. So they said it really comes down to just the state increasing public school funding. But they did say they acknowledge the importance of investing in their own. It's hard to ask partners to invest in students with these internships if DIC is not doing it themselves. And Trustee Foreman wanted to know how many career students obtain internships, also wanted to explore partnerships with organizations as opposed to just corporations. So she mentioned the Hispanic Contractors Association, the Black Contractors Association. Also wanted to know the number of students obtaining those internships disaggregated by campus. She wanted to know the selection process for the DISD internships. So there was a expo or a fair at SMU. It took place during the school day, and all of the transportation was provided for rising juniors to be able to go to those to SMU to engage in the expo, where they had interviews and many were offered on-the-spot opportunities. And then this comes up later in the discussion about tracking students post-graduation, but she did say that she doesn't think that the district is in the financial position to allocate resources to do that tracking since they just adopted a deficit budget. Trustee Curry wanted to know about outcomes-based funding, how the district can draw more outcomes-based funding down. So they said the biggest hurdle is that data is lagged by 2 years. So it requires an initial investment from the district, and hopefully the district will be able to recuperate that investment and then begin to reinvest any money that's earned after. They did say that they're improving because more students are meeting the requirements to qualify for outcomes-based funding. More students are TSI met. And then he said that he wanted, to identify what data would be helpful to evaluate the effectiveness of programs. And he said that it doesn't necessarily need to be building formal data tracking systems. It could be just working with the Texas Workforce Commission to be able to get some of that data that they have. And then Trustee White wanted to know if students are allowed to volunteer during the school day. So the district does offer a practicum class for seniors who are in CTE courses, and they can earn credit while working off campus. And then what teaching opportunities are available for students. So at several high schools, there are education pathways, and students can earn a commitment from DIC, basically an early contract to become teachers once they receive their degrees. Trustee Mackey wanted to know about systems for tracking students, specifically like those who gain employment with partners. So they don't have any formal systems to track students who don't go to college. They do have relationships with local partners like Dallas College, so they can obtain that data that way, but they don't have, a formal system that they're using currently. And he wanted to know how the district maintains relationships with students once they graduate. So they do work with college and career advisors and also building that alumni network. Trustee Johnson also wanted to know about the touch points for students enrolled in college. So there's a light touch point during the first year, and then based off the need, if they identify, students who are struggling, they can increase the number of touch points, but they did say that they're limited by personnel. It requires people to be able to do that. And so it's just down to a limitation of the resources. And then he also wanted to know if Dallas College still offers scholarships to DISD students in education pathways. So yes, Superintendent Elizalde mentioned she thinks it's just for early learning majors, but those students can earn a full scholarship for their degrees and also receive a paid internship while they're in college. And then the Student Code of Conduct, it was the second read of the Student Code of Conduct. Some of the comments, Trustee Foreman said, making sure the document's formatted so it's easily accessible and understood by parents. She said she doesn't think special education evaluation should be conducted at DAEP. needs to have a clear definition of hate speech. So hate speech was a new addition to the student code of conduct. There's a lot of discussion around it. She wanted to know how the Racial Equity Office is involved in decisions regarding hate speech. So it's to ensure consistent administration of consequences. She also wanted to know what data is shared with the task force to be able to make decisions related to the student code of conduct. So they share the number of DAEP placements, reset placements, the offenses and actions by trustee districts and campuses. And then they talked about the alternate options to DAP. So this is just for discretionary placements. Students do have the option to do community service or take classes, Saturday school. They also have to have their parent engage in parenting classes, and that is at the discretion of the principal. So the principal can make the determination if they want to offer that to a particular student. She just wanted to know who monitors that if it is offered. So it would be the principals and campus administrators. And then does the principal have the authority to refer, Trustee White wanted to know if the principal has the authority to refer a student to reset regardless of the number of occurrences. Yes, they do. Also wanted to know about the alternate DAEP options for the parenting classes. Does it have to be a legal guardian? And it does. Trustee Turner wanted to know how hate speech is defined and identified. So formal definition is on page 58 of the Student Code of Conduct, but basically it has to meet the requirements of an expression against a protected group or class, causes a threat or major disruption. And basically it's, an escalation beyond just offensive language was what they said. He wanted to know if hate speech results in a mandatory parent conference. So yes, if it requires DAEP, and that's because anything that requires DAEP requires a parent conference, but they did say that they could look into including parent conferences for any occurrence of hate speech, regardless of if it involves DAEP or not. Trustee Curry wanted to know if changes are being made to the cell phone policy. So no current changes, but they're working with principals, teachers, community members to identify how to strengthen that policy, also monitoring other districts, what they do. We want to know if the district has policies regarding AI usage. So misusage of AI falls under cheating and plagiarism policies. There's not a separate section right now for AI. And then he also wanted to know who makes the determination about DAEP placement for hate speech. So principal makes that determination. They collaborate with police. They can also consult the Racial Equity Office for additional guidance. And then Trustee Weinberg just wanted to know why hate speech was added this year. So it was a result of incidents in the past year that escalated past offensive language, were racially motivated, and they realized that they didn't have the language in the previous student code of conduct to be able to deal with these occurrences. And then what is the distinction between bullying and hate speech? So she said that bullying, they said that bullying doesn't necessarily always involve a protected class like race or ethnicity, for example. But they did say related to hate speech that, this is their first iteration of it. And throughout the year, they'll just monitor, how it's the consequences are being administered, and they can make changes as necessary next year. So that was the presentation. And it was the last one for the year. So yeah, thank you.